this is great. Wonderful turnout. Thank you all for coming here tonight. As some of you know, we have a blog, and I know that some of you probably did go to the blog and read some of the excerpts there, so you have an idea about this. I just want to give you a quick introduction, how it all came about. I've known Robert Potter for a little over 10 years. And through that 10 years, our conversations always led to esoteric things. And that's how we spent the days in our friendship building this divine dialogue. In 2008, Linda, my wife, and I, we moved to California, and we were visiting back in Philadelphia in 2009. And we were invited to a dinner party, which was held at a friend's house. And Robert was there. And after the dinner party was over, everybody had left. It was outdoors, and Robert and I were left alone sitting at the table as usual. We started our conversation, and one thing led to another. We were talking about ego, this, that, and the other thing. And he said, "Let me read you something that I've written." Opened up his laptop, and he started to read. And he read me a paragraph that literally pierced through my heart. Now, I've been on the path for a long time searching for the word that really would influence me and give me hope and just let me awaken a little bit more. And this did it in 4 lines. So I said, could I read the whole thing? And he emailed me the Word document. We went back to California and I printed it out. And it was a little over 300 pages, but in that weekend I printed it out, I read the whole thing. I couldn't put it down. And it's become my direction. Now, it's something that I resonated with, and I understand people read the book and there are moments that will resonate with a lot of you. Tonight we hope to resonate with most, if not all of you. There is a wonderful future that is actually happening now, because in this state where time does not exist, everything is going on. And we have become a part of it, and this is my hope for the future. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Robert Potter.
If you don't mind, I think I'll just sit down for a while. I may get up and wander around, but right now it just feels right to sit, to start, because I'd like to ask you to participate in this event as a seminar. I would like to ask you to participate and contribute as much, if not more, than I do. This will be a group exercise, and I believe firmly that we can actually together go into the future now, tonight, here. And I'm going to be a facilitator as best I can for that exercise. To tell you the truth, I don't know what is coming, because that's the way the books came, that's the way I speak, and that's the way it'll be tonight. So we'll see what happens. I'll do a little exercise, 2 little exercises in a moment, but first I want to start with a little story. As I was sitting on the beach on August 1st, 2008, on Assateague Island in Virginia, just relaxing, beautiful sunny day. My friend Michael was rolling in the surf like a big walrus. He looks that size guy. So I was sitting there by myself, and I decided to write a poem. I wrote the poem, and when I do write poetry, it comes or it doesn't come. I can't make a poem happen. So this poem came, and I put it aside, and then a thought came to me. What if you got a letter from 500 years in the future? I have no idea. I wasn't thinking about that in the poem at all, but that thought came to me. And then it kind of blew away on the breeze, and I sat there for a little bit. And I picked up my journal where I'd written the poem, and I started writing a letter from 500 years in the future, as though, well, here's what they would say if they were going to write a letter to me from there. Well, That, I thought it was going to be like a 2-page entry in my journal. It went on for 12 pages, and that was the first chapter in the first book. The next day, it went on, and I couldn't stop doing this day after day for 5 months. Exactly 5 months later, on January 1st, 2009, the last lines were written. So, and all the way through, I never knew what the next paragraph was going to say. I don't recommend this as a way to write a book, especially a book if you want other people to read it. Of course, I thought I was writing it for myself. So at that point, that wasn't a concern. But it was just so fascinating to get these inspirations paragraph by paragraph. I've always been a believer in the muses, so I credit the muses. And technically, I do credit the 9 muses who work for Apollo in Greek mythology, and actually in my life, they exist. And Apollo exists. And he's quite a creative being. Book 1 was published. The same thing happened again about a year later. I went for a year with no inspiration. The muses evaporated, they were gone. But about a year later, and I'm not sure what the date was, but it was the first of a month. It's written in the book, I think, in the foreword. 5 months after that, to the day, that book ended on the first of a month. That book was published last year, 2011. This year, I started writing the 3rd book in the trilogy on the 1st of January. I finished it on June 1st, just a few days ago. First draft. There will be editing after this, but the last lines of the book were written just a few days ago on the 3rd book. And the last line of that book is the word Apollo. And so here we are today, and that's kind of the end of that story, except that story doesn't seem to ever end. It seems that you are all now here in the story, whatever that means, and it will mean something different to each one of you, I believe. And on that note, I will stand up now, and I'd like to ask you to imagine the chakras in your body. Imagine your heart chakra sending out an electromagnetic signal to every other heart chakra in this room, so that we're all linking our heart chakras together. And let's do that just in silence for a few seconds. Now, imagine throat chakra and the solar plexus chakra joining and linking with everyone else in the room. Next, imagine, and use your imagination for this. It's perfectly all right to use your imagination. The forehead chakra and the sacral chakra, linking with everyone in the room. And now, the crown chakra and the root chakra, linking with everyone in the room. And finally, imagine that these lines linking are like a rainbow. The 7 colors of the rainbow are linking each one of us. So we are all linked by a rainbow bridge. Thank you for participating in that. I have a very favorite meeting technique. It's called dialogue. It was created by a physicist named David Bohm, along with a French psychiatrist whose name escapes me at the moment. It might be Lamarck. They borrowed the word, of course. It was already in our language, dialogue. They also borrowed the concept for dialogue from ancient cultures and other cultures still existent around the planet of meeting in circles. They created a little bit of a framework for it, though, so it gives us perhaps a little more guidance. And there are 5 principles, and Barbara helped me to come up with an acronym this afternoon as I was trying to remember the 5. Here are the 5 principles that David Bohm came up with. The first one is to listen. In a group circle, listening is a very important thing. We can all identify with the value of that. The second one is inquiry. Let's bring a spirit of inquiry into the circle. The third one is voice. Out of the silence in the circle, out of listening, out of inquiry comes your voice. And to enter the circle, each individual has a responsibility to speak, to bring their voice to the group. The fourth, respect. Basic sharing of the space with everyone else on an equal footing. And the fifth one is an interesting one, which requires a little more explanation. It's called suspension. And the intention that David Bohm and his partner had in mind was that you offer to the group an idea. If you're raising your voice for the group, as a suggestion, for instance, to talk about, have a conversation about in the group, you suspend it before the group. You imagine it actually floating in the center of the group and you let go. You suspend your attachment to it, which is a wonderful way of getting your attachment and ego loose from this. So if you give an idea to the group can follow it, move it into conversation or dialogue, or the group can decide, no, we don't want to do that. And if you've truly suspended it, you'll just say thank you and continue with the group and in some other direction. So those 5 things again, it's listening, inquiry, voice, respect, and suspension. What you do with that framework is you listen to the silence. All sounds, all voices, according to David's theories of physics, come out of silence. And so they go back into silence. They go back into stillness. They go back into presence. And Stefan just told me today that he was listening to Eckhart Tolle today, I think. And Eckhart said, whenever I'm called upon to concentrate or go into a meeting with my accountant or whatever it happens to be, he says he turns up the volume of presence. And thank you, Eckhart. Thank you, Stefan, for that. So I invite us now as a group to turn up the volume of presence. It's the shared space that we have, that we're creating together right now. This is a collective creative act, just being here together. So thank you for your creativity and the presence that you bring, all of you. Let me now ask you if anyone would like to say anything at this point.
Hi. I just want to share my experience, if that's okay, with the meditation that you went through the chakras. In my imagination, I was just imagining like these big hula hoops, like attaching to all the chakras, and all different colored hula hoops, and I was like standing in the middle. And it was really just a beautiful experience for me just to feel that and feel that. But I just saw hula hoops going around, connecting everybody. I guess because it's a circle too. So yeah.
Yes.
I just want to share that.
I would like that lady, like a little wave.
Could you stand up to speak, and could you raise your voice a little louder, please?
felt it was like a wave. We were attached like a wave. I felt very healing.
Can you raise a little bit louder? It's hard to hear you. Just like projected.
I felt it was very healing. I don't know if anybody else. I felt like I had shoulder problems when I came in. I was a little askew, and I suddenly felt my shoulders were starting to have less pain. And I felt you were connected like a wave. Does anybody hear that?
She felt a healing from it that was like a wave. The 500 is 500 years from now. That startled me too when I